Very good morning, Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The video says it all why we are here and welcomes you to the Nigerian International Petroleum Summit. And I'll quickly just get into this business of recognizing some of our dignitaries and your very distinguished selves to get us started with the event this morning. I want to welcome, once again, our Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, who has indeed in the last 3+ years led our industry on the path of growth and continuous progress, convening this particular conference to ensure that African countries build bridges and pull down silos inhibiting progress. Please welcome Dr. Emmanuel Ibekachukwu one more time. You're welcome, sir. He's also the president.
Good morning and welcome to the live broadcast of the second edition of the Nigerian International Petroleum Summit taking place in Abuja. The first edition in 2018 held February 19th to February 23rd. One may ask, why this summit? The summit, that is the Nigeria International Petroleum Summit, is a project of the federal government of Nigeria. Its structure and organization received the approval of the Federal Executive Council and has the highest level of government backing and endorsement. Organized in the true spirit of a private-public partnership, Nigeria International Petroleum Summit creates the platform for Nigeria to help galvanize Africa's response to global oil and gas challenges. NIPS is therefore designed to be the ultimate place for Nigeria and Africa's oil and gas sectors, where principal decision makers from the public and private sector exchange innovative ideas. The event also hosts and showcases a number of side and cultural events. In 2018, 4,182 square meters of exhibition space was offered, and it was fully booked, with 30% of that already pre-booked within 2 weeks of the event close. And so in 2019, organizers are making available 8,000 square meters of exhibition space to accommodate the expected surge in booking requests. The exhibition will allow companies to demonstrate their latest technologies and make good their services directly and market them to decision makers. It is expected that keynote players in the global oil and gas sector will therefore be here to be part of this great second edition. And for many here today, the 20th edition summit feels like just yesterday. Yet, in many other ways, it feels like a lifetime. And for them, they say, it is because of the gravity of events that have taken place in the global hydrocarbon industry since then. And most of these include price volatility, which remains on the front burner for most countries, the cost of which continue to form key talking points at various gatherings, and it is also expected that the key talking points will also focus on that here today.
Ensure the smooth running of activities in our industry. I begin by recognizing the presence here of the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Dr. M.K. Baru, FNSE. We welcome you. The game changer, who indeed came to succeed in the space of local content, is also here with us. Engineer Simbi K. Wabote, Executive Secretary, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. We welcome you. Our regulator of the industry, the Department of Petroleum Resources, the Director, Mr. Mordecai Ladan, is here represented by the Deputy Director of Corporate Services. We welcome Alhaji Shako. Welcome. We're also joined by the Principal and CEO for the Petroleum Training Institute in Warri, Professor Sonny Iyuke. We welcome you. Another agency in the ministry, the Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory Agency. We welcome the ES, Professor Dim Lawrence. Thank you for joining us. ES, PEF, Petroleum Equalization Fund, Alhaji Ahmed Boboy. We welcome you. Executive Secretary, Petroleum Product Pricing Regulatory Agency, Alhaji Saidu, 'Abdul Qadir. We welcome you, sir. Thank you for joining us. The Executive Secretary, Petroleum Technology Development Fund, PTDF, is also here with us. We welcome Dr. Bello Guzau. Thank you for joining us. And because this event is seeking to build partnership amongst agencies of government, we also welcome the Director General of ICRC, Engineer Chidi Izuwa Senior. We welcome you. We're joined this morning by the captains of our industry. I begin by welcoming the Chairman of Oil Producers Trade Section of the LCCI and Managing Director of ExxonMobil Companies in Nigeria, Mr. Paul McGrath. We welcome you. We also welcome the Managing Director of Shell Petroleum Development Company, Mr. Osagi Okubo. We welcome you. Mr. Nicholas Deraz is the Managing Director of Total, represented here by the DMD, Al-Haji, I like to call him on this occasion, Kida Musa. We welcome you. I looked up and I see His Excellency, the United States Ambassador to Nigeria, Your Excellency, Mr. Simonton. I got that. I welcome you. I welcome you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Alhaji Aliko Dangote is the president of Dangote Group, represented by an executive director at the group, Engineer Mansa Ahmed. Sir, we welcome you. Thank you for joining us. We also welcome the managing director of Chevron Nigeria, Mr. Jeff Ewing. We welcome you. Welcome the managing director of Ajib, Mr. Lorenzo Furillo. We welcome you. We welcome the managing director of Nigeria LNG, Mr. Tony Atta. We welcome you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, time will fail me to recognize all of our captains, eminent industries in our midst. Therefore, please suffice that for me to say welcome to the managing directors of independent companies that have joined us here today. We welcome the managing directors of the service companies that have joined us here today. We welcome presidents and chairmen of industry associations that have joined us here today. We welcome other captains of industry relevant to the oil and gas that are here today with us. We welcome all of you. I'd like to correct the name for the permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry for the Federal Capital Territory. I'm told it's Christian Chienyaka Oha. We welcome you, sir. Sir, we welcome you. Forgive me when it's handwritten, sometimes MCs struggle with it. We welcome our very renowned and eminent speakers that will be sharing their experiences and wisdom with us in the next 3 days. We welcome our sponsors, whose pillar of support ensures that we organize these conferences every year. We also welcome members of the fourth estate of the realm who ensure that we disseminate the appropriate information of the industry to Nigerians and the world. Welcome you, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richmond Osuji, and as always, I have the privilege, honor, to be standing here in front of you for the next 2 days. Allow me to also appeal that for the rest of the 3 days of this conference, we ensure that we're wearing our name badges for ease of access and networking. Let me also tell us that this year, there's an innovative development to what we do at NIPS. When we go back to the ICC for our plenary sessions, you will be seeing there a particular device that's much like your usual ATM card. It is that device that you would use as a member of the audience to sway the direction that the panel will take a discussion. When we get to that part of the bridge, I will be sharing more on it. We're also appealing to every one of us who are on social media to please join the conversation on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. And whatever you tweet, say, or write about this event, please use the hashtag NIPS2019. Let's get Africa talking. Let's get Nigeria talking. Let's get the Nigerian oil and gas industry celebrated on social media. We'll appreciate it if you join us. Later today, we would have opportunity for bilateral meeting spaces for all of our ministers who are attending this conference. We'll also have meeting rooms around the ECOWAS Secretariat for B2B businesses, for those seeking to do business across the divide on the continent. Once again, in my capacity, I say a warm welcome to all of you. Let me then start this event by asking you to join me in welcoming for our host address and his remark. Please welcome the Honorable Minister of the FCT, represented by the Permanent Secretary, Sir Christian Chienyaka Oha.
Thank you, MC. the Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, and other ministers of different parts of the world in energy industry, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, the Group Managing Director of NMPC, and other stakeholders in petroleum industries, heads of international energy agencies, facilitators of Nigerian International Petroleum Summit, delegates, invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Honorable Minister of FCT and residents, I humbly welcome you, our esteemed guests and participants, to the second edition of International Petroleum Summit, holding here in Abuja, the beautiful capital of Nigeria. We are very delighted to welcome you back to Abuja after the first edition, which also took place here. We see your return as an eloquent testimony of a satisfied guest. We are cognizant of the official role of oil in our national economy. It is a major foreign exchange earner, provides for energy needs of Nigeria, and is a contributor in the efforts to meet the energy demands of the global community. Oil, therefore, remains a major magnet for both local and foreign investment in the country. The focus for this conference, which centers on shaping the future through efficiency and innovation, is a welcome development. Indeed, the theme is in tandem with the quest of His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari to take the nation to the next level. The need to improve the extractive processes as well as to harness oil and gas resources has engaged the attention of all stakeholders, especially oil experts, host communities, government policymakers over the years. The incidences of oil spillage as well as gas flaring have been causes for serious concern. We are therefore hopeful that with this conference, Nigeria will achieve innovative and more efficient ways of exploration, drilling, refining, distribution, storage, and consumption in the industry. Abuja indeed provides a very attractive landing ground, both for local and foreign direct investment in the country. We therefore hope that beyond conferences and tourism, petroleum stakeholders will consider Abuja in their choice of investment, especially in downstream sector. As you look around, you will notice that so much has taken place since your last conference. Some of you may have rode into the city on our rail mass transit system from the airport, which commenced operation last August. Similarly, just last December, the new terminal of Abuja International Airport was opened. This has significantly shored up the international profile of the airport and further consolidated our position as an aviation hub of West Africa. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, our strategic location of the heart of Africa and the flourishing urban life in the city are very indicative of the rise of the city as a major investment, tourism, and conference destination in Africa. For this reason, we have invested massively in infrastructure and public utilities. We therefore welcome you to Abuja, invite you to savor Abuja's rich hospitality culture and experience its beautiful landscape. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you once more and wish you a very refreshing outcome. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. God bless Africa. God bless our industry. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and that is the welcome from the Ministry of the Federal Capital Territory, our host, Before I continue, please, the receivers are for the interpretation service at this event. For French speakers, the channel is 2. For English speakers, when a French delegate is speaking, the channel is 1. Before I get into the next address, let me very quickly welcome or recognize the presence here of Jens Frolich Holt. He's the State Secretary for Ministry of Foreign Affairs all the way from Norway. We welcome you. Thank you for being here. We also recognize the presence here of all of our chief operating officers and top management of the NMPC. We welcome you, our very senior colleagues. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, having been welcomed by the FCT Ministry, we'll now take our remarks to the very next item, which is to set the tone and tell us of why we are here for the next 3 days. And to do that assignment, please join me in welcoming the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Dr. Folashade Yemieson.
The Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, Dr. Emmanuel Ibe Kachuku. The Honorable Minister of the FCT, represented by my own brother, Sir Christian Oha. Ministers from around the world, and very, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We all recall that on the 19th of February last year, the world converged in this city of Abuja to witness the birth of Africa's first ever inclusive international petroleum technology and business conference, which has provided the platform for the global energy community to engage Africa. Without doubt, the maiden edition of the Nigerian International Petroleum Summit created an unprecedented and perfect platform for the world to meet Nigeria's oil and gas industry players. Never before, particularly at that level, had allied industry players, experts, and stakeholders gathered in a single location and at the same time to initiate and drive a positive agenda in the interest of Africa's energy future. It is therefore against this backdrop of that aspiration that I most heartily welcome Your Excellencies and all our distinguished new and returning attendees to NIPS 2019. The theme for this second edition is Shaping the Future Through Efficiency and Innovation. This theme was very well thought out in view of the correlation between efficiency and innovation and the cardinal roles each play in the attainment of not just contemporary or short-term aspirations, but also those of the future. I must therefore most especially acknowledge with appreciation the various international energy organizations, operators, national and international and multinational companies, as well as potential investors who have keyed into the objective of this summit by participating in the exhibition, so as to present modern technologies and know-how in the industry. We consider this a very clear demonstration of your support to the success of the NIPS, and for this we are most honored. Thus, beside attending plenary sessions all delegates are accordingly enjoined to take a tour of the various stands of organizations represented at this event. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, since our departure from the 2018 NIPS, preparations towards this year's summit began in earnest. Consequently, we have set up additional venues, increased the number of services and personnel, deployed a more interactive website, and improved logistics on the whole. Of course, these arrangements put in place, among others, were partly informed by the number of participants registered for this event as at last week, which indicated a whopping 300% increase from last year's figure. In addition to our desire for all our delegates to have a seamless attendance, may I also seize this opportunity to acknowledge the unrelenting determination of our partner in progress, Brevity Anderson, for the work done so far. This year, we have a 3-day program, and it's packed with an array of events, which include a ministerial session, an executive roundtable, bilateral discussions, honorary patrons dinner, and industry awards, and very, very, very innovative ideas that will be discussed on day 1, day 2, day 3. So I'll advise that you don't just stay for the opening ceremony, but please make sure you attend all 3 days. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I can only further assure you that all is set to make your stay here in Abuja most fruitful and memorable. Do also feel free to get in touch with us as to how we can assist for your maximum participation at this summit. On behalf of the Honorable Minister of State, the government, and good people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I once again welcome you all to the 2019 Nigerian International Petroleum Summit. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Folashade Yemieson, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, reminding us of the successes of the previous event, the commitment to ensure it continues, and welcoming us to this conference and what to expect. Can we please give her another round of applause? Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, just to inform us that we're streaming this event live on different television stations across the country, Nigeria. Continuing, we would like to also at this time move over to the goodwill messages. We'll take a few of those, proceed to a ministerial address, and bring this opening ceremony to a close. In her speech, the Permanent Secretary appreciated the expertise and excellence brought to bear by Brevity Anderson in putting this event together for the ministry. Our first goodwill will come from the Advisory Board Chairman of Brevity Anderson. Please welcome with me Mr. Paul Olatunde Adisa.
Good morning, everybody, and standing on existing protocols. First of all, on behalf of Brevity Anderson, I would like to thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to see so many different faces than we saw last year. I think we've had a wonderful time working with the ministry and helping us to put together this fantastic event. We look forward to you all attending not just the sessions in terms of the conference, but also going around the exhibition halls as well. There are a number of things and shows that I think you'll find very interesting and meaningful to all who have presently attended. Now, I like to keep my presentation short, so I'm going to say to you all, thank you very much, and have a great time while you're here, and we look forward to seeing you again next year.
Thank you, Mr. Adisa. Indeed, see next year. Continuing with the goodwill, in the Nigerian oil and gas industry, one company stands tall when it comes to braving the odds, doing things when nobody thought it was possible. They are called the poster child for local content, the men and women of the moment. And that company, ladies and gentlemen, is our next goodwill speaker. I speak of Total Nigeria. Please welcome with me, representing his MD, Deputy Managing Director, Deepwater District for Total, Engineer Amadou Kida Musa, for his own goodwill.
You can see on this project, we have the largest number of Nigerians working on this project. In this yard alone, we have over 1,700 workers. And if you look at that into families, you can say for sure that we have over 1,700 families whose lives this project has impacted upon. So the impact on the local context is quite impressive. It is quite immense. And I believe that subsequent projects will look at a general project as setting the standards to follow.
I feel very great looking at what we achieved. It says a lot. It's a very big plus for Nigeria since we're having this as the first time.
This project is unique. We had to bring the FPSO to the shore of Nigeria. It didn't happen before. And we had to do 6 modules of the top sides.
I actually started on this project in 2012. This is based on the Total Human Capacity Development Initiative. So I started with a contractor for ICSS, Honeywell. It was a scheduled program for about 18 months to 2 years. And at the end of the program, I was successfully then recruited by Total on the project. It is the first time that I've worked for a project of this magnitude. I have learned a lot. I would say that I've grown as a person, of course, and as a professional.
I really feel like a little rock star all of a sudden. I may start getting used to this. But be it as it may, I would want to stand on existing protocols established by our MC. And I want to offer apologies of Mr. Nicolas Teaz, on whose behalf I'm actually making this speech. He's unavoidably absent, and I think he communicated to you, Honorable Minister, that he's out there fighting for another part and parcel of a GINA, the continuation called Preoway. So on behalf of Total companies in Nigeria, may I warmly welcome all of you to the 2019 Nigerian International Petroleum Summit, the NIPS. NIPS, just at its second year, has shown considerable potential as a destination of choice for oil and gas policy, articulation, and evaluation. It is also a place where we share our best industry practices. We peer review all our unique solutions to the industry's challenges. Brainstorming on problems yet unresolved are also tabled, and it is also a melting point of innovations as much as a forum for discussing emerging local global trends that would impact the entire oil and gas value chain. This makes the 2019 theme shaping the future through efficiency and innovation, very opposite. Our industry's future, one which, like other realities of life, is very, very full of uncertainties. This, in a global geopolitical terrain, is very, very uncertain. It is further complicated by the technological innovations within the industry that challenge existing production templates. It also innovates and gets innovations from outside our industry, and we cannot really all afford to ignore all the innovations that would dovetail in looking for alternative sources of energy beyond the fossil fuels. The concerns for the environment and the fluctuations of the price of the oil, they make that prerequisite for us to search for efficiency in the use of our resources and make sure that we have innovation in the forefront, making sure that oil and gas goes hand in hand with technology. Efficiency and innovation are key enablers if we are to work safer, reduce costs, make faster and better decisions, and generally increase productivity. It is therefore necessary that we share our best practices and experiences in this gathering to enable us adapt and quickly take actions that will sustain us in the far and immediate future. Total's projects in Nigeria have been industry benchmarks. There have been benchmarks with regards to efficiency and innovation. The one on everybody's lips at this moment, and I see in everybody's eyes, has a very historical perspective, Honorable Minister. You have in this hall the personality of Dr. Maikanti Baru, who signed the FDP, the Field Development Plan. We also have a very unrelenting soldier, I would say, of the country, Mr. Simbi Wobote, who babysat this project for all this while. And he is one of the reasons why we have achieved the very laborious 77% of in-country content. At the plateau, Egina will add 200,000 barrels of oil a day to Nigeria's current production. And this will humbly represent about 10% of Nigeria's current production. With Egina, Total will be operating about 23%, a little shy of a quarter of the national production. And we are proud. And we are proud to be very significant contributors in securing Nigeria's oil and gas future. Egina did set very unprecedented records in local content and capacity building. For us, Egina stands as a great testament to Total's commitment to Nigeria and our determination to support and advance local content development. 77% of the man-hours worked on the project was done locally here, with 60,000 tons of equipment fabricated in Nigeria by local contractors. In addition to drilling records and other significant achievements, the Egina project achieved the integration of 6 locally fabricated topside modules in Lagos. This is a first in Nigeria and Africa. We shall share in the course of this conference some of these feats with you and also introduce our new projects, Ikike, which is ready for sanction, and Prewe, both of which my MD went to Paris to defend. I do understand, Honorable Minister, that Prewe is receiving, I would say, weekly attention on its advancement of the FDP. The Total Group has been present in Africa for more than 90 years and has been involved in the exploration activities in Nigeria for 57 years. We have a broad and diversified portfolio in Nigeria, with activities spanning onshore, conventional offshore, deep water, and LNG. Indeed, Total is the only integrated international oil company with a presence throughout the entire value chain of the industry in Nigeria, downstream, upstream, and midstream sectors. Total has developed a very strong partnership with the NNPC and other partners. Our downstream operations is so diverse in Nigeria that there is a Total filling station in each and every local government in the country. As of today, Honorable Minister, we're about the only IOC that is still active in the downstream sector with more than 550 filling stations nationwide. That must be coming from Total, right? We're also very active in the solar energy with our Awango lamps that addresses the electricity needs of our rural communities. This is especially most important where people are not connected to the national grid. Finally, I urge all participants to have an open mind and take part in the activities of this summit with a view of proffering practical solutions to our industry's many problems, plus pragmatic ideas for efficiency in terms of operations, cost optimizations, and innovation. One way that NIPS can also create a very unique value might be in devising a means of tracking decisions and sharing results of successes in subsequent years. The success stories of implementations and applications in solving real-life industry problems cannot be overstated. I wish you all a very fruitful deliberation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Engineer Amadou Kida. Indeed, we're going from Ejina, we're traveling to Ikike, we're going to Proe. So for many who are thinking, where is the next phase, where are the next chapters, you've heard it, as they say, from the horse's mouth. And indeed, projects will keep us busy and enrich companies that do business in the country. Thank you. Thank you very much. Continuing, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we go from Total to yet another company that has made tremendous contributions to our socio-economic life as a people. And indeed, we're also expecting that in the very near future, they'll bring us a project that will keep the industry busy. I speak of Shell Petroleum Development Company. Now join me in welcoming the chairman Shell Companies in Nigeria, Mr. Osage Okubo.
Shell companies in Nigeria are major contributors to the Nigerian economy. Through the oil and natural gas we produce and distribute, we generate revenue for the Nigerian government, promote Nigerian content, and provide social investment to communities. For the last 5 years, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria joint venture has contributed $23 billion to the Nigerian government. In 2017 alone, Shell-operated ventures in Nigeria produced an average of 631,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day, and the AFAM 6 power plant currently supplies approximately 15% of the entire nation's grid-connected electricity. None of this would be achievable without an extensive local supply chain and Nigerian content. By providing technical and financial support, we have enabled Nigerian ownership of key assets such as rigs, helicopters, and marine vessels. For example, the Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company has provided support to improve training and safety standards at Caverton Helicopters, one of the biggest aviation logistics providers in sub-Saharan Africa. In 2017, 95% of Shell companies in Nigeria employees were Nigerian. Initiatives such as improved access to financing at reduced interest rates to support Nigerian contractors have received widespread praise and recognition. To date, 7 participating banks have disbursed a total of $1.5 billion to over 290 Nigerian contractors. Social investment programs have had a lasting impact on people in the Niger Delta and Nigeria as a whole. In 2017, $60 million was directly spent on programs focusing on community and enterprise development, education, health, access to energy, and road safety. In addition, the SPDC joint venture spent $10 million in 2017 on community-driven development projects under the Global Memorandum of Understanding structure. Since 2006, $228 million has been dispersed to communities. In 2017, Nigeria received the largest concentration of social investment funds in the Shell Group. Shell companies in Nigeria will continue to closely collaborate with their joint venture partners, Nigerian contractors, communities, and the Nigerian government for a lasting and positive impact.
Honorable Minister, please permit me to stand on the existing protocols that have been so eloquently laid out by Richmond. I'm indeed honored on behalf of the Shell companies in Nigeria to be part of this event and to welcome us all to the opening ceremony of the 2019 Nigeria International Petroleum Summit. We were all here last year when NIPS betted with the aim of creating a platform for Nigeria to help galvanize Africa's response to global oil and gas challenges. We in Shell have also come to see that it offers a platform where principal decision makers from the public and private sectors exchange innovative ideas. The theme of this year's summit, Shaping the Future Through Efficiency and Innovation, is as relevant as it is timely. I am confident that the thought leadership from this conference will add to the existing body of ideas that will define a clear vision and path towards a more diversified industrial economy for our country. This is what we hope for in Shell, and this is one reason why we are major sponsors of the 2019 edition of this summit. In Shell, we are committed to be the preferred partner for growth as we strive to deliver the energy needs of today and the future. Under the right conditions and terms, we remain committed to keeping the investment pipeline going in recognition of the contribution of the industry and the multiplier effects that can be created in a larger economy for the overall growth desired by Nigeria and for our collective pride and benefit. Our commitment to Nigeria is unshaken, whether now or in the future. I want to take this opportunity, as part of this good message, to thank the Honorable Minister of State for continuing with this initiative. I want to thank our indefatigable Permanent Secretary for putting up what I see as yet another great summit. We're all witnesses to what happened last year, and from just seeing the participants list, including the exhibitions, I think we are in for another great event. So thank you very much, Madam. So ladies and gentlemen, on this note, I want to welcome you all to the 2019 edition of NIPS and look forward to an exciting time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sergio Kubo is the Managing Director, SPDC and Chairman Shell Companies in Nigeria. Indeed, stating Shell's commitment to continue in supporting the growth of Nigeria. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I'd like to welcome the Honorable Minister of Communication, Dr. Adebayo Shitu. We welcome you. Thank you for being here. What we'll be doing here for the next 3 days is all about trade, investment, and truly economic cooperation. Representing the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs is the Director, Trade, Investment, and Economic Cooperation of the Ministry. We welcome Mrs. Olufolake Abdul-Rasak. Welcome. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, continuing from Shell, we move over to yet another big IOC in our country. We welcome, he's currently the chairman of Oil Producers Trade Section of the LCCI and managing director of ExxonMobil. Welcome, Mr. Paul McGrath.
Honourable Minister, State Petroleum Resources, Dr. Kachiku, other Honourable Ministers here present, the Group Managing Director of NNPC, Dr. Baru, Head of Country Delegations, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As Chairman of Oil Producers Trade Section, also known as OPTS, I welcome delegates to the 2019 edition of the Nigeria International Petroleum Summit. Our member companies are delighted to once again partner with the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and other industry stakeholders at this very important and timely summit. We're especially thrilled that this summit is focused on shaping the future of the oil and gas industry through efficiency and innovations. Two themes that dominate the OPTS, and we have continued to promote these themes since our inception 56 years ago. The upstream oil and gas industry continues to be at the center of the Nigerian economy, accounting for over 90% of foreign exchange earnings, with OPTS member companies collectively accounting for over 90% of the total output. It follows, therefore, that we continue to pursue and promote all genuine initiatives and efforts aimed at improving the fortunes of the industry for the mutual benefit of all stakeholders. With about 40 billion barrels of oil reserves and approximately 180 trillion cubic feet of discovered natural gas, the world's 11th and 9th largest, respectively, Nigeria has the resource base to remain a leading hydrocarbon economy for the long term. However, make no mistake, competition is out there with ever-increasing challenges to our market position. It becomes urgent and critical that we build the right policy and regulatory framework that position Nigeria as an oil and gas investment destination of choice. We are hopeful that this summit will provide stakeholders, governments, operators, and allied service providers with the opportunity for frank and constructive discussions on the key issues impacting our industry and come up with practical and sustainable solutions towards securing Nigeria's oil and gas future. We once again congratulate the Nigerian government through the Minister of Petroleum Resources on the success of the maiden NIPS, which was held in 2018, and we're confident that these continuous stakeholder engagements, complemented by a conducive industry regulatory and legal framework, will help achieve the country's oil and gas objectives. The opportunities are immense, the promise is great, and we look forward to working with all stakeholders to drive maximum value. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman OPTS, MD ExxonMobil, Mr. McGrath. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, representing our Honorable Minister of Education at this event, we'd like to recognize the presence of Mrs. Elizabeth Adejigba. Madam, we welcome you and thank you for joining us. We switch gears now to our sponsors for the opening ceremony, the Dangote Group. The President, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, is unable to join us this morning, but representing him is Engineer Ahmed Mansour. Please let's welcome Engineer Mansour, an Executive Director at the Dangote Group.
The Honorable Minister of State, Petroleum Resources, other Honorable Ministers here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to stand on the laid out protocol. First, let me convey the sincere apologies of Alhaji Aliko Dangote, the chairman, the president of the Dangote Group, who is unable to be here in person. As the baby of the industry, perhaps he may be feeling a little intimidated by the doyens of this industry. But nonetheless, he is indeed committed to coming into the industry in a substantial manner, as we'll soon see. And he has asked me to present this brief goodwill message. So on behalf of the President, the management, and the entire staff of the Dangote Group, I wish to thank the Honorable Minister and indeed the organizers of this conference for inviting us to participate in this very important industrial occasion. At a time when the industry and indeed the global economy is in a state of flux, it is most appropriate that our attention should focus on the future of our industry, especially given the incredible speed and quantum of change that is taking place in every industry and in every facet of human endeavor. Our economy, in particular, cannot afford to ignore these massive changes. Our decades of dependence on this single industry for our economic well-being and the urgent need for diversification has been widely recognized and is clearly the most critical challenge for our policymakers and indeed operators in the economy. But even as we seek to diversify from oil, and we are indeed making measurable progress in this regard, we cannot ignore the need to continue to exploit this God-given resource in a more efficient and more innovative way. We therefore commend the organizers of this summit for this very theme. As we venture into this industry, therefore, after many years of hesitation, we at the Dangote Group have no alternative but embrace the concept of efficiency and innovation. Our ongoing massive investment in refining and petrochemicals, in fertilizer and gas development and transportation is driven by the desire to bring innovation and efficiency in all facets of our businesses and our operations. Our refining project, which indeed is ongoing, we have virtually completed the initial civil works and are receiving major equipment for installation, will produce 650,000 barrels per day. And we believe it will indeed meet the domestic demand of petroleum products in the country and indeed provide some for export. Our fertilizer plant, a 3 million ton urea and ammonia plant, should help our agriculture industry and save over $500 million of imports. Our East-West gas gathering system, a $3 billion investment, will unlock significant amount of gas for our industries, especially in the energy and industry sector. We are therefore delighted to be here today, not only to participate in the deliberations of the latest technologies in the industry, but to learn what works and what doesn't as we proceed to apply the latest and newest technologies in our $14 billion projects. We therefore wish to thank the Honorable Minister of State. We wish to thank the Group MD of the NNPC and the other key agencies of this industry for the tremendous support and encouragement that we've received as we commence on this path. We'd like to again thank all of you for inviting us to this event, and we hope that indeed it will be the beginning of a long and enduring partnership between the Dangote Group and NIPS. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Ahmed Mansour, Executive Director at the Dangote Group. Engineer Mansour, you might be one of the newest entrants, but Dangote Group are game changers whenever they come. You came to the downstream sector, you caused a disruption, and we're waiting for that game-changing refinery. So even if you come to upstream, I'm sure they will not call you a baby, sir. We'll know what you can do. All right, continuing, Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed to the next few good remarks remaining before the ministerial address, I want to remind us that this evening we would have the honorary dinner for ministers and indeed the industry. It will start at 6:30 at Transcorp Hilton. I'm taking time to say this just so that we know the reason we're going to close early today is because of that dinner. We're all encouraged to come and celebrate this ministers across the African continent doing Africa proud and indeed the oil and gas industry. I would also be like someone like Mr. Bank Anthony, who was the first to be here today before everybody. Thank you very much. We like that kind of punctuality. Thank you. During the lunch and coffee breaks we would have at the ICC, because every other program would happen at the ICC, would have separate rooms reserved for our speakers, our VIPs, and our delegates for their lunch, tea, and coffee. Our ushers will be willing and happy to assist you to the room that says where you go to. Continuing with our goodwill, we're switching gears now from the operators to the ministry and her agencies. I'd like to begin with one man who, if you look at the theme of our conference, it says, Africa on the global stage, international collaborations, opportunities, and the future. Having the understanding of the future for our industry, he and his team at the board, where he oversees, have been leading the charge in improving technology across the divide, even all the way down to the schools. I'd like for us to welcome the man who truly is succeeding with local content in Nigeria, Engineer Simbi Kesiye Wabote, Executive Secretary, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board.
Your Excellencies, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, the Group Managing Director of NNPC, my friend and brother, Dr. Makanti Baru, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, heads of federal government agencies here present, captains of industries, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I have often said, I think, to establish protocol in future is always to tell the MC to say, look, give me the list of those you have not called, so that when I come on stage, I will announce those you have not announced. But let me stand beside an established protocol, because if I stand on it with my weight, it will not sustain it. Mine is just a very straightforward goodwill message. I attended the African Oil Week in Cape Town, and the theme that I heard at that conference was collaboration. I came to Nigeria last week. I attended a conference organized by Petroleum for Sub-Saharan Africa. The theme I heard was collaboration. And today, we are talking about shaping the future through collaboration and innovation. That reminds me of a story that my mother used to tell me in those days, when they didn't have any timepiece to know when it is dawn. They listened to the cock. She said, listen to the cock, it will crow once, and you know that is 5 a.m. When it does the second time, it is 6 a.m. And the third time, you know it's 7 a.m., it's time to wake up. So if these conferences that I have attended have crowed 5 a.m. and they talk about collaboration, they did crow by 6 a.m. and it's collaboration, and today by 7 a.m. it is saying the same collaboration. What does that tell Africa? Time to wake up. Let me thank specifically, without patronizing them, Total, for what they have done to move the needle in local content in this country. Please, can we put our hands together to Total? As the Executive Secretary of NCDMB, I still see operators and contractors coming forward to negotiate below what Total has achieved. And I said, it is forward ever and backward never. So I think for Africa, it is time for us to look inwards. When I listen to people trying to solve the problem of migration of Africans from Africa to Europe, what are they looking for? Jobs, better life. If we don't look inwards, and if the international community does not also recognize that it is important that we leave the jobs in those areas so that Africa, that the population is growing, perhaps without control, it is time to let them have the jobs so that they can stay within their continent. But if we continue to move the jobs outside Africa, be rest assured that in the next 20 years, including me, will join the ferries to come across to Europe. And there is nothing you can do about it, because it is an existential threat that I have no job, I have no future. I will definitely come for you. So please, let us pass this message that local content in the oil and gas industry that drives the economy of most African countries is the way to go. And we should encourage this to happen and let them have the jobs there, let people get employed, and let them have a better life. So my message today is that the cock has indeed crowed 3 times, and it's time for Africa to wake up and collaborate in order to enhance the development of local content. I wish you a successful conference. Thank you.
And my ears have spoken. Africa, the cock has crowed the 3rd time. Wake up. Indeed. Please, one more time for Engineer Simbiki Siewabote, Executive Secretary, Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board. We thank you. Continuing to the very next goodwill message, and this time We're going to our national oil company, touching our lives in very many ways and ensuring that these projects that will keep the people in the country will continue to come on stream and engage our people. Please welcome with me the Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Dr. Maikanti Kachala Baru, FNSE.
All the shows have been done for me by Total and also by Shell. The summary of what we've done have also been covered. Good morning, Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum, my own boss, Dr. Emmanuel Ibekachuku, the other honorable ministers here present, the honorable ministers from the various countries here present, the ambassadors of the United States of America and Norway, and possibly other members of the diplomatic corps here present, our permanent secretary, captains of industry. In the spirit of my immediate predecessor, I stand on existing protocols. Somebody asked me, why am I dressing like an Indonesian? I said, continuously have a change. And I want to see the CEOs all dressed like this. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring you goodwill message from the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation family. On behalf of the NNPC, I welcome us all to the second edition of the Nigerian International Petroleum Summit. I am sure we had fruitful, engaging sessions at the inaugural edition, which held last year in February. We are indeed happy to see you back in the capital city, Abuja. This second edition of NIPS promises to be more exciting and more engaging, with much fuller package of over 100 speakers. The potentials for networking and new business opportunities at this event should not be underestimated. NIPS is indeed a veritable platform for us to help galvanize Africa's response to global oil and gas challenges. It is a melting pot to meet, discuss, and share ideas on moving not just our industry forward, but our different economies as well. I enjoin us all to be fully committed and participate in the various programs. On this note, let me commend the efforts of the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources under the able leadership of my Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, His Excellency, Dr. Emmanuel Ibekachuku. We share in your vision for NIPS to be the premier African petroleum technology and business conference and the largest gathering of oil and gas professionals, just as the NOG has become for Nigeria. I must also commend the sponsors of this summit for the level of work done to ensure that this edition is more rewarding, and I say well done. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the theme for this year's summit, as we are told, is shaping the future through efficiency and innovation. However, our sub-theme for today's program is Africa on the global stage, international collaboration, opportunities, and the future. You will agree with me that the theme fits into the shape of and scope of current happenings with regards to rapidly fluctuating oil prices and Africa's demand for energy, investment, and real growth. Considering activities, trends, and developments in Africa's oil industry in the last couple of years, it is evident that the opportunities exist here in Africa. Quite a lot of new oil and gas discoveries and projects are awaiting final investment decisions. However, these opportunities will remain a mirage if we do not address critical issues such as lack of infrastructure, legal and regulatory impediments, and transparency issues, amongst a host of other factors. If we collaborate, especially in the area of infrastructure, and also align our respective regulatory framework, I see opportunity out there to be harnessed, and the resources in the regions will be there for grab. Today, Nigeria and Morocco are collaborating with a view to jointly constructing a gas pipeline that will traverse at least 15 West African countries with intake and uptake points and connect to the existing Maghreb-Europe gas pipeline in North Morocco. The feasibility study has been concluded, and the pre-FID, the pre-FEED optimization study is currently ongoing. While this pipeline will help in electrification and industrialization of these countries, it will also meet the needs of European consumers for heating and other uses. We see gas as a fuel to take Africa to the next level. New gas discoveries have been recorded offshore Senegal, Mauritania, Mozambique, and are in various stages of development. Nigeria is also targeting to take FID on the LNG Train 7 this year. As I said in last year's event, African countries need to collaborate and trade amongst each other, not only in terms of oil and gas, but also in other key sectors, so that the multiplier effect is seen across our various economies. I hereby re-emphasize this statement. I enjoin us all to be fully committed and participate in the various programs run off for this event. In closing, let me say that I'm confident that the outcome of the various engagement sessions will be key not just for the African oil and gas industry, but also for our energy future and sustainability. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, we welcome you to the 2019 Nigerian International Petroleum Summit. I join you to network and find some time to enjoy the beautiful scenery of Abuja. I wish us all successful deliberations. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Dr. M.K. Baru. Thank you. Indeed, underscoring for us some of the achievements of the NNPC in joint venture partnership with the IOCs. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we switch gears now to the next goodwill. Before I do that, let me once again remind you that we're streaming live across different television stations, and that is courtesy of the NNPC. It's another thing they're doing, telling the story of the industry to the world. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Thank you very much. African Petroleum Producers Organization is that body that is seeing to it that African countries maximize the rich resource found on our continent. Our Secretary General will be addressing us now. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Muhammad Lawal Gaya.
Honorable Ministers of Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency Dr. Emmanuel Ibekachuku, Minister of Petroleum Resources of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President of APO, Excellencies Ministers of Petroleum of APO member countries, ladies and gentlemen, member of Executive Council of APO, Mr. Director General of African Energy Investment Corporation, Excellencies Ambassador of and Head of Diplomatic Missions, ladies and gentlemen, GMD, ladies and gentlemen in your qualities and ranks. Allow me to start my speech by expressing my thanks on behalf of ministers, executive board members, and all delegations of APO member countries here present in this room for invitations to them addressed to take part to the second edition of the NIPs, the warm welcome and the very good working conditions and accommodation available to us in Abuja. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm also happy to the theme of this day, Africa on the global stage, international collaboration, opportunities, and the future, a topic that is more topical and challenging. Your Excellencies, in September 2018, Africa Oil and Power, AOP, a platform for oil and energy discussions, organized its third annual conference in Cape Town, South Africa. The theme of this conference was Energy Coalitions, whose presentations and debates focused on how best to move Africa's energy sectors forward through energy coalitions. What was it? Indeed, for a long time, African leaders had felt the need to establish energy coalitions, and for their part, experts and analysts called for a united global front, intra-African energy cooperation, and the effective involvement of the private sector in the energy oil industry. However, with the new global context characterized by large fluctuation in oil prices and geopolitics unfavorable to African countries, other forms of collaboration with new and better developed energy coalitions have been considered. In the current context, we believe that the creation of coalitions of another kind can transform the oil and the energy sector, an essential factor for the economic and social development of our countries. Excellencies, it may be recalled that the debate on energy coalitions has a long history, and it is the current global energy and oil context that has brought it back to the fore with discussions with more partners. The reform undertaken since 2015 of the former African Petroleum Producers Association, which is now called African Petroleum Producers Organization, APO, with a new governance, come among others things in this dynamic. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a new organization, and our ambition is to allow APO to have a strategic positioning in the energy, oil and gas sectors in Africa, and to promote its activities in good intelligence with other sister organizations. With a real political will from African leaders and with its new vision, mission and strategic objectives, APO could tie in with the world's major oil and energy policies. Excellencies, honorable ministers, APO now intends to focus on understanding cooperation and partnership with institutions inside and outside the continent of Africa. A greater presence of African countries in CISA's organizations could, tomorrow better than today, have a positive influence on the energy and oil economics of our countries. It is no longer a question of creating regional or international groups without added value. From this consideration, cooperative relations with organizations like OPEC, IEF, and GECF could consolidate APO's policy and positioning on the global oil and energy spectrum. Clearly, APO shares with OPEC, GECF, and IEF the concern to promote policy and management strategy initiatives across all segments of the energy and oil value. Today, 7 out of 14 OPEC member countries are African. It gives 50%. 5 out of 12 GCF member countries are African. It gives 41.66%. 25 out of 74 IEF member countries are African. It gives us 37.80%. This massive African presence should be beneficial to member countries. It is by strengthening our unity within these organizations that our presence would have an impact on global energy and petroleum governance. Excellencies, oil is a highly sensitive sector that commands coordinated and highly focused strategic approach. It is a truism to say that Africa is generously endowed with relatively abundant and diversified extractive and energy resources. Unfortunately, at the present stage, we are not able to enjoy this abundant reach to establish sustainable development. And yet, with a constant population growth that makes Africa a huge market, the energy sector can become a major focus of its development. But to a large extent, this is due to the inability to implement good development policies, good economics and political governance, and a good coalition and institutions, national, regional, and international, reflecting the difficulties to make the big leap required towards social economic development. What we want and encourage is a strong commitment from African leaders for sincere, meaningful, and lasting political and economic cooperation, which is the pledge for a true energy integration for our continent. Your Excellencies, we were on 6th and 7th of November 2018 in Vienna, Austria, at the joint meeting of ministers of OPEC member countries and non-OPEC member countries, where a large presence of African delegations were visible. In addition to the 7 African countries member of OPEC, namely Algeria, Angola, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Libya, Nigeria, and Congo-Brazzaville, which had just entered cartel, we were also present as observers 5 other countries that are Chad, Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, and Uganda, not to mention the Secretary General of APO. With the departure since January 1st of this year of Qatar, and as I said above, 7 of the 14 OPEC members are African and APO members. In his closing speech, the President of Council of Ministers of OPEC, the Emirati Minister of Petroleum, His Excellency Suhail Al-Mazroui, warmly welcomed the massive presence of Africans and asked APO to work for that at the next meeting of OPEC, the African presence will be more marked. It is in this vein that I welcome this presence of African countries in these institutions, and I take this opportunity to invite all the African producers or potential oil producers first to join APO family in order to strengthen African energy cooperation, which is a fundamental factor in the economic and social development of our countries. Excellencies, to conclude, I must recall that the current context of economic crisis resulting from the fluctuation of oil prices requires us to adapt our development and cooperation strategies to the new situation in order to better combat this crisis. Let's make sure that meetings such as the NIPES become real platform for cooperation and exchange between African and foreign oil companies, the various actors in the hydrocarbon industry, and that the effect of this cooperation are felt by our respective countries and our populations. This is also going in the dynamic of energy coalition, which I mentioned at the beginning of my speech. On this note, I wish a great success to the second edition of the Nigeria International Petroleum Summit, and long live the Inter-African Oil Cooperation. Thank you for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Gaia. Merci. Thank you very much, the Executive Secretary of Africa Petroleum Producers Organization, Engineer Maman Lawal Gaia. Thank you. Can we please appreciate him one more time? Guiding us through what African countries are doing in the international community and reminding us that all of that should benefit us immensely internationally and indeed within the continent. We appreciate you. Finally, before the ministerial address, we're switching gears now to the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. Please welcome with me the head of delegation, Dr. Robert Arenas Lara, for his own goodwill message.
Excellency Minister Dr. Manuel Ibe Kawishi, ambassadors, ministers of Nigeria, thank you very much for this opportunity for GECF. It's a pleasure for us to be here today in order to participate in this prestigious event. From our side, Nigeria is, as you know, one of the members of GECF, and we welcome this event, and we wanted to continue strengthen the ties between all the member countries. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, indeed, keeping it short and straight to the point, the head of delegation, Dr. Robert Arenas Lara of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. Of course, when you want to cook with firewood or charcoal, it takes a bit longer. When you cook with gas, it's shorter. So his speech is short like a man that does gas. We appreciate you. Thank you. Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in the last few days, members of APO, the ministers who make up APO, have been meeting in Abuja. They have been meeting, of course, to strategize on how they can consolidate this collaborative effort across the divide. And one man has been at the forefront of all of these arrangements and meetings, understanding the role and importance of technology to the growth of our industry moving forward. He led his team to found this particular conference, or summit, if you like, for which we are here. Met the industry over 3 years ago in a state some called comatose, in a state some said was gradually going into a place we did not enjoy. Revived it, removed opaqueness, and brought to bear true governance and leadership that is bringing about growth and progress. Join me now in welcoming the President, African Petroleum Producers Organization, and our Minister of Steel Petroleum Resources, Dr. Emmanuel Ibe Kachukwu, the man I speak of.
I don't know how much you enjoyed the first video that was shot. It's very futuristic, very entertaining, and certainly very stimulating for the process we're going to undergo for the next 3 days. So whoever put that together, congratulations. That wasn't from me. Most times, everything is linked to the minister, but quite frankly, beneath the minister, some people are working and producing very good results, and they need to be acknowledged. And I'll ask Makanti Barrow that next time when he sponsors us, we should make sure we don't let Shell and Total dominate performance, because NNPC is also doing quite a lot, and I'd like to see their own video when next to come. So put your hands together for all of you, and thank you. Excellencies, honorables, CEOs, prime movers of the industry, attendees of the conference, distinguished Nigerians, in whatever nomenclature or appellation that you fall into, welcome to this ceremony. Let me start by saying that I stand here in three capacities. I stand here to represent His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, who would have loved to be here and had planned to be here. But I'm sure if you're Nigerian and if you're following Nigerian politics, you understand why he can't be here. He's busy on the campaign trail, trying to begin the whole preparing himself for election. He then asked the vice president to come in and represent him. And then I got a call from the vice president that for the same reasons as the president gave me, he's unable to be here. And so I went back to the president and said, what do I do? You are not going to be here. The vice president isn't going to be here. He said, Emmanuel, can't you represent everybody? Represent me, represent the vice president. What does it take? I said, well, it will require a bit of presidential ceding of power for the 1 hour or so that I will do this. He said, okay, take as much power as you have, but outside the doors, I will have some security men so that if you overstay your welcome, they will know what to do to you. So I am here representing His Excellency, the President and the Vice President, and bringing their goodwill messages to you. They are very enthused by the fact that the second NIPS conference is taking place and all of you have shown up in this massive nature. We are very impressed with the results of the first one and are looking forward to very many more of this. But more particularly for them is the fact that the theme of this particular conference is 1, Africa, is 2, collaboration, and it's 3, futuristic. So like Simbi has said and Barrow has reemphasized, the sheer fact of collaboration going around Africa is something that gives a lot of momentum to leaders of Africa, the African continent. In the last 1 or 2 days, in fact in the last 3 days, delegations from various African countries represented here by some of their ministers and some who have left were here to attend the Apple Extraordinary Meeting. And that meeting was dedicated to finalizing the prototypes of reforms that we're trying to bring into Apple. As you're probably aware, I assumed the presidency of Apple for a second time last year through the collegiate decision of my brother ministers. And the whole idea was to take back Apple, reshape it, do the sort of thing we've tried to do in Nigeria, and bring it back to compete with such like organizations all over the world. And for that purpose, the Secretariat of Apple was then moved to Nigeria to work here with us for a year. This is why you have the Secretary General here, and help us to begin to create a new platform that will make Apple relevant to the needs of African producers. We'll finish that work. A lot of that work was done by my staff, not me. But we'll finish that work, and we're presenting over the last 3 days to delegations from Africa all the new changes that we want in Apple, inclusive of expanding the role of a particular financing body that we're going to be calling the African Energy Investment Corporation. And the whole idea is, quite frankly, to mobilize between $1 to $2 billion of resources to begin, quite frankly, to fund within Africa all the essentials that are necessary for us to do proper collaboration. Today, most African countries are siloed. Everybody does their own thing. You do your own refinery, you do your own plants, you do your own gas turbines, you do your... Everything is so siloed. But if we could just cross the Rubicon and be able to extend hands of infrastructural relationships across Africa, build joint pipelines, like Dr. Barry said, build joint plants, build joint refineries, begin to protect the African market, we would have taken a huge step, not only to the development of Africa, but to the stabilization of independent African countries. And that is the whole idea of what Apple was doing over the last 3 days. I'm glad to say that we finished that meeting yesterday and signed on to resolutions that endorsed all the changes that we had suggested. And so we're now going to move on to the implementation stage. So that's moving into today's theme, which is collaboration, Africa, and the whole futuristic model, shows that everything really is beginning to finally come to bear. And we really do not have much of an option. As you talk oil today, people have mentioned our reserves, people have mentioned our capacity, the potential for 74% growth over the next 30 to 35 years in Africa in terms of production. But on the challenge side, certain things jump out. First of all, shale jumps out, oil pricing jumps out, investment limitations jump out, President Trump jumps out, and so many other things. And then you look at the opportunity side, so much going on. Egina, Train 7, Shell is getting itself ready for Bonga Phase 2. Ajip is working very hard in terms of Zaba, and that's Nigeria. But all over Africa, discoveries are abound, and suddenly you find that with the opportunities are also coming huge challenges related to environment. You no longer can produce oil the way we did it before. People have got to take responsibility for the environmental impact of what they do. Host community challenges are becoming not just vociferous, but militant in nature. So you've got to begin to listen to areas where those resources abide. Now, the ease with which you find resources in terms of financing is getting tighter, because suddenly oil majors and investors are awash with opportunities all over the world. Even in Africa, the emerging economies that are finding oil by the day is creating major challenges for countries like Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, Angola, who had historically been the dominant type countries in some of these areas. So unless you get your policies right, unless you get your marketplace right, unless you get your collaborative mechanisms right, unless you get your infrastructure right, you're going to face a huge amount of challenge in the competition of very scarce resource and scarce capital. But Nigerians have done well. And one of the reasons why I thought 2 years ago there was a need to begin to celebrate what we're doing, show our technological discoveries, and bring everybody together to Nigeria to see how much we've come of age, is that some of the best, when I worked for Mobil, we used to have these difficulties in terms of when people are seeking for posting. They want to go to different parts of the world to get experience. And I remember one managing director who called everybody and said, look, the reality is that all the experience you need abroad are sitting here. Our biggest projects are sitting in Nigeria. Our biggest investments are here. There's absolutely no reason why you should be going out. There's more reason why you should be staying in, and we should be sending people back in here to come learn the field. That's the reality. Today, independent producers are doing over 12% of our contribution to our national production. I'd like to see that figure grow to over 30%, which means that we need to create models that encourage them to invest their money, seek resources, and seek financing. Skill set is unbelievable. Over 90% of most of the oil majors are Nigerians, 90% of their employees, which means that some of the best skill sets are here. One of the things that I found, for example, going into an NPC in 2015, is that every detail of capability that you need to run a global company starts in an NPC. They were very well trained, very well exposed. You had issues in terms of policies, but in terms of skill sets, solid. And if you look at the tons of Nigerians who have left the oil industry over the last 20 years and retirements, you have so much capability in terms of manpower resource, and we need to begin to harness all this. So we're better to begin to show skills than here. And we're hoping that with this collaborative spirit that we're beginning to build, we'll be able to export some of those to Africa, sit down with our brothers who are coming to oil production for the first time, get some of our local participants and investors to begin to get into those forays and take opportunities of what their blocks offer. So Africa, the time has come. The time can never be better. The realities are done on us because, quite frankly, very soon, unless we protect our border posts, like many countries are doing, unless we begin to look more to the continent, unless we begin to look more to financing that we can find locally, unless we begin to look for African financial entities to help us develop the key infrastructure that we need in this sector, we would have lost a huge opportunity. And then technology, of course, is attacking us at a very fast pace. Like people keep saying, at the rates electric cars are moving in, at the rates solar power is moving in, if we do not move very quickly, we'll be bundled with a huge amount of growing resource, which even when exploited will be worthless. Look at the price of oil over the last 5 years and the performances. Look at the projections over the next 3 years. Something urgent needs to be done for Africa, and we cannot do it independently alone. We need to collaborate with ourselves. So as I declare open on behalf of His Excellency the President this summit that is going to take place for the next 3 days, this conference, I challenge all of you to think outside the box. Think Africa, think collaboration, think the future. I hereby now, on behalf of His Excellency the President, declare this conference open. Thank you.
Think Africa, think collaboration, think the future.
That's how it's been on the live broadcast of the second edition of the International Petroleum Summit. If you've been following up, you will know that participants and key players here are optimistic that a greater collaboration between the African oil and gas sector will reposition Africa to take her rightful place as key players in the global oil and gas scene. We've just had the minister who represented President Muhammadu Buhari declared open the conference, and you will recall that we did say at the beginning that this year's conference has about 300% increase from the last year participation, and with the theme shaping the future through efficiency and innovation. Key players here are unanimous that indeed Africa is getting it right through collaboration and will continue to do so, with decision makers paying attention and making sure Africa gets it right. This is the live broadcast. Do still stay with us as we continue to check in to find out more of what is happening after the minister's declaration. In this case, I may say the president because he represented the president. And we do know that exhibitions will be on and dignitaries perhaps will be led to some of this exhibition. And we hope that this three-day conference will reposition Africa indeed in the true meaning of the word to take her rightful place, because NIPS, that is the NIPS, is designed to be the ultimate place for Nigeria and Africa's oil and gas sector, where principal decision makers from public and private sector exchange innovative ideas and the oil and gas sector in Africa and how they can truly take their rightful place in the global scene.
Before we take the anthem, I want to quickly say the only way for Africa to make this progress into the future my minister has talked about is for us to invest in research and development, is for us to encourage technological advancement in our respective countries. Independent companies invest in R&D, NOCs invest in R&D. Richmond Osuji is my name. I will see you on the other side of our conference. The anthem. The national anthem, please. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. God bless Africa.
And that's how it's been on the live broadcast of the second edition of the Nigeria International Petroleum Summit. On behalf of all my colleagues behind the screen who contributed to the success of this program, we'd like to say thank you for keeping a date with the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA's largest TV network.